Can you hear us as well, Kathy?
Yes, I can. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Madam President, Dave Maley, I'm on too.
Good, that sounds perfect. Thank you. Here we go. You can't touch any buttons. This meeting will be called to order. This special meeting was called by the Finance Committee of Massillon City Council for the purpose to discuss and possible passage of ordinance number 93, 2021. Roll call.
Creamer,
Present.
Gregg,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Lewis, Littman,
Here.
Lombardi,
Here.
Slutes,
Here.
Starrett,
Here.
and Barrett.
Present.
Roll call of 8 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Craig,
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion that we excuse Councilman Lewis for this evening.
second by Councilwoman Littman. Roll call.
Gregg,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
and Creamer.
Yes.
8 yes to excuse Councilman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance, Councilman Lewis has been excused. We have in attendance with us tonight the following city officials. If you would take a roll call for me, please.
Mayor Kathy Catazero Perry,
Good evening.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester, Auditor Jane Ferrero, Chief Deputy Auditor Stephanie Myers, Law Director Justin Richard,
Present.
Chief Counsel Bill Bartos, Chief Engineer David Kroc, and/or Jason Popeil,
Present, this is Jason.
and/or Greg McHugh. Community Development Director Samantha Walters, Economic Development Director David Maley,
Present.
Is there anyone on the call from administration that I have missed? Thank you, Madam President. That's it.
Thank you and welcome to everyone. We're at the point of the agenda where anybody, citizen can talk matters on the agenda, which will be ordinance number 93, 2021. If you wish to do so, please state your name and address. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Hearing none, we'll move into ordinance number 93, 2021.
An ordinance making certain appropriations from the unappropriated balance of the 1419 Marketplace TIF Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an ordinance that we were attempting to discuss last week in a work session, having difficulty hearing each other and so forth, and especially hearing from administration regarding some questions that we had around this legislation, primarily discussing how much from this TIF fund has already been used in the amount and when. Is there anybody from administration that can speak to this ordinance this evening?
Yes, this is sorry. Yeah, this is Jason. I'm here. I can answer your question. To date, what has been spent from the TIF is $393,542.57. That was spent on right-of-way acquisition, right-of-way clearing, and construction to ODOT.
Thank you, Mr. Opil. Can you tell us what the balance is in this TIF currently?
I cannot tell you that. I don't know the balance. I don't know if anyone else does or if it's on your spreadsheet.
Yeah, it should be on the spreadsheet.
It's stated under 1419 on the cash position statement.
Okay. The balance showing is ending balance 945,622.17. Any additional questions or discussion regarding this ordinance? Ms. Creamer?
Yes, thank you. I would like to know, initially when this project was presented to council, the funding for this project, how much funding was proposed to council to come out of this TIF fund?
From the TIF back in 2019, we were proposing 1.392 million. And with this 425 request, we'll only be using or asking for 818,000. So we did have a significant savings since 2019, and that's a result of right-of-way acquisition being a lot lower than ourselves and ODOT anticipated.
Councilman Starrett.
Thank you, Madam President. Jason, is this going to be the last request for funds out of the TIF for this project?
Yes, that is the plan. This will cover the actual bid cost from Shelley Company, as well as about 1% contingencies should anything arise. We will have that covered because that's a 90-10 split. So we usually account for 10% contingencies, and 90-10, that leaves us responsible for about 1%. So yes, we are purposely doing this so we do not have to come back even if there's some minor issues in the project with contingency or change orders.
Anyone else? Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Madam President. This legislation does have emergency language, and I know the administration is anxious to get it passed, which is why we're discussing it this evening. So I make a motion that we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of the ordinance and bring ordinance number 93, 2021 forward for a vote.
Second by Councilwoman Starrett. Roll call for suspension.
Hernkane,
No.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes,
and Gregg.
Yes.
7 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Slutes,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Creamer,
yes,
Gregg,
Yes.
and Hernkane.
No.
7 yes for passage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ordinance number 93, 2021 is passed. Our next meeting will be Monday, June 7th. There will be nothing next week.
Yes, they will.
They will?
Madam President,
I'm sorry, this is the 24th. I'm sorry. That's the week.
I thought, yes,
Madam President,
yes.
I just would like to thank council. You all voted for this several years back to do this project, and it's a very important project for not only the city, but for the state, as that intersection there was one of the worst intersections, at least in the top 10. So I do appreciate all of you voting for this so we can pay our bills because the project is already underway. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else have anything? Meeting adjourned.
Okay. Sign this one.
right. It's work session. Fortunately, Councilman Lewis couldn't be with us, so he asked me to handle the meeting this evening. We'll start off with community development.
Thank you. I do not have anything new. The only pending legislation I have is for the Kmart rezoning, which will be up for, after tabled on June 7th. And I also have the 1722 Erie proposed rezoning. Just a reminder, there will be a public hearing on both of those, June 7th at 6 p.m. before our regular scheduled meeting, and then those will be up for vote on that date. Any questions? That's all I have.
Thank you. Environmental.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. There are no new pieces of legislation. There is one old piece, which we gave first read to last meeting. I have a question for Mr. Popeil, if he's on the line. Okay. Well, I'll save my question then for the next meeting, because there's, the emergency language box is not marked, so I guess we'll do full 3 readings on that. So that gives time for me to ask that question. So nothing further, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you. And so I've had my first slip up. Diane, should we have asked for a roll call for city officials?
Yes. Mayor Kathy Catazero Perry,
Good evening.
Safety Service Director Barb Sylvester, Auditor Jane Ferraro, Chief Deputy Auditor Stephanie Myers,
Present.
Law Director Justin Richard,
Here.
Chief Counsel Bill Bartos, Chief Engineer David Kroc, and/or Jason Popeil, and/or Greg McHugh. Community Development Director Samantha Walters, Economic Development Director David Maley,
Present.
Police Chief Mosier, I see him on the screen,
Present.
Fire Chief Matt Heck, and I also see Health Department Commissioner Terry Argent.
Present.
Is there anyone from administration that I have missed?
Council Clerk, I just wanted to make a statement to Mr. Gregg. Not every administration person, director will be on the calls, only if it pertains to their area. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, President Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Continuing on, let's go to health, welfare, and building regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. I do have some legislation to read. It says, please prepare legislation to add a dedicated animal compliance officer to the Code Enforcement Department. This position would be part-time, averaging approximately 28 hours per week. The job description would include receive, investigate, and resolve animal nuisance, animal abuse, and animal neglect complaints from the public, and remain current on state of Ohio and local wild and domestic animal ordinances. Develop and maintain liaison relationships with various local agencies, i.e. Animal Rescues, Stark County Dog Warden, Stark County Humane Society, Stark Parks Wildlife, trap, neuter, release organizations, and other agencies appropriate to assist the city with animal control and compliance issues. This is not marked as an emergency. Mayor, would you like to speak on this?
I sure would. Thank you very much, Mr. Slutes. I spoke with Mr. Lombardi this afternoon, and I explained to him, and I'll explain to all of you, when you brought out your concerns to us, we added that to the code enforcement's job description, and they've already been doing all of this. So he's going to retract the language because we're already doing it, and the follow through has been outstanding.
Any other questions? Sirs?
Committee members?
Is there any harm in putting this on the agenda? Or is the administration saying that this is unnecessary because code enforcement is already doing these things?
That's correct. We're already doing this. And they work concurrently with our police department on issues and with the health department as well. And we actually have 3 code enforcement officers that are working on this instead of 1.
Mr. Lombardi?
Thank you, Mr. Slutz. Madam Mayor, just for clarification, are all of the employees inside the code enforcement office all taking on part of this, this as part of their position?
Yes, they do.
Has this been written into their job descriptions at this point?
Yes, it has.
Just as a follow-up for Mr. Lombardi, can you email all that to us so we can just take a look at it, Mayor, or somebody in the administration, so we can see the job description for the animal control part?
Sure, we sure can.
Thank you.
We'd be happy to.
Mrs. Lippman?
Could we, I guess the question would be, have these officers received any specific training in this field to do these extra duties that are now part of their job description? And I guess I'm asking that because I believe that the sheriff's office, when they were in the past, indicated that they had available specific animal control training that is available for neighboring police and or maybe in this case, code enforcement officers, so that they would have specific training and there'd be continuity among how these situations should be handled, not only in Massillon, but how they're being handled in the surrounding areas as well.
They work very well with the Stark County Dog Warden as well as the Stark County Humane Society, and have since you all brought this to our attention. We did not want to just designate one person because that person could be on vacation. So as far as specific training, no, but they've been doing this for quite some time. And again, they work with our police department, and most of the issues we have are lost dogs, and we work really well with our police department. They go out and help the people. I know they've bought dog food before for them once they return the dog home. They've just done an outstanding job. So, and they're working very well all together.
Is there any after hours attention that's being given to these situations, or are these officers these code enforcement officers only available 8 to 5?
They are only during the day, but the police officers are around the clock.
Thank you.
Mrs. Creamer?
Thank you. I have a question and I have a statement. So we had a situation in Ward 4, probably 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, that a dog was designated as vicious. And I've requested on multiple occasions what that means. And I have not received a follow-up. So I did not realize that code enforcement had this under their scope of service. So I'd like a follow-up regarding what a designated vicious dog means. And number 2, When we were discussing registering rental properties, I believe the question was asked of code enforcement. I believe Jim Johnson was on the call. Approximately, what was the percentage of rental properties? What was the percentage registered in the city? And he gave us that percent, which in my mind, I don't feel that's an acceptable percentage, but he stated that during their downtime or when they have time, they follow up on these registering rental properties or identifying rental properties. This is my concern. If we do not have enough personnel and resources in code enforcement to get every rental property registered in the city, how are they going to take on code enforcement? I just feel like we're setting this department up for failure. Thank you.
Well, we're not setting them up for failure. In fact, they're excelling, Mrs. Kramer. They do an outstanding job. They all work well together. They have a system that they meet with Barb, which has just been reinvented over the past 2 years. And they're getting more work done today than they ever have. So I'm very proud of the work and the collaboration that they've had. And, you know, we also have Terry Argent. So we have Terry Argent that works on these. We have 3 code enforcement officers and all of our police officers. I don't know what else we can do to satisfy some of you on council that want to have a specific person for this job. It is not for one specific person. We have around the clock, we have 3 code enforcement officers and Terry Argent, as well as Barb in my office. Mark Lombardi can tell you every time he has called me, we fix the issues. And so I don't know why we're trying to waste more money for this position when we're already doing it 10 times what we've done in the past, and probably more than 10 times.
Mr. Thayer?
I don't think that was the question. Question was, if they have all these extra jobs and we only had around, as I recall, 30%, 33%, about 1/3 of the probable rentals registered in the city, are they catching up? Or are they just getting further behind? This was a big issue several months ago. We haven't heard anything since, and I believe that may be Ms. Creamer's, the essence of her question. If they're assuming more duties and they weren't able to do what they could before, how's that working out? Thank you.
It's not the issue, Mr. Thayer, of if they're doing their duties. It's hard to find these owners of the property. They can own a property and be out of state and we don't have the phone number. It's more than just going to a place, a residence that someone has a rental, and trying to find the owner. It's more than that. It's not that simple. And this is a problem throughout all cities, even townships, trying to find who owns the property and connecting with them. That's the issue, is connecting and finding the rightful owner.
Mr. Lombardi?
Thank you, Mr. Slutz. I introduced this legislation to our committee. I would like to suggest that we at least put it aside until the next work session, give the mayor a chance to fulfill the request that Mrs. Sterrett requested, and take up the discussion then at that time.
That's fine with me if that's what you want to do.
You need to speak into your mic, Jenny.
Mrs. Lippman?
I would ask, is there any benefit to adding a code enforcement officer to be able to alleviate some of the work of the others so that they are able to increase their efforts toward the rental properties and still be able to address any of the animal control situations as well, should they arise during their shifts. And I guess my second question would be, if we're getting $16 million from grants from the COVID situation, is this a need that could be satisfied from the expense side with, and it appears to me it would be a very small portion of those funds?
I'm sorry, is that question directed to me?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
We are still drilling down on the COVID dollars, the American Rescue Act dollars. And we will be discussing that this week to talk about where we want to spend those dollars. There are great restrictions on them. I was on a webinar the other day, and there are great restrictions on them, but we can talk about that. As I shared with you before, we will be bringing legislation to you to add an officer either on Metro or the FBI very soon. I don't think that there's a grant for the Metro. We've been working and waiting for the sheriff on that. So that is our first priority, is that. We had a drug raid the other day in the city, and it's a concern of mine, and that has to be the top priority first. But there's going to be dollars that are going to be available, and we're putting together a plan for those dollars that we'll share with you in the near future.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hurricane.
Thank you, Mr. Slutz. I do like this legislation request. And to the points of Councilwoman Littman, Councilwoman Creamer, Councilman Theorett, and anybody else I may have missed, by adding a dedicated officer, eliminates the need to bifurcate the duties of our existing code enforcement officers. I do agree that in one way, shape, or form, a new position is required. We either have an animal compliance officer dedicated to this, let the other 3 code enforcement officers do what they're currently doing, working through the list, tracking down the properties. If we, add somebody else and continue to have them wear many hats, I still think we're in the same boat. I just want to put on record, I do like this idea. I'm in favor of it. We've talked about it for a year and a half, but I will also abide by the wishes of the committee as they see fit at this time.
Mrs. Littman.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make one more comment. I do think that specific training is important when dealing with the nuisance animals and vicious animals. However this shakes out, I would like to see even our current enforcement officers taking advantage of the fact that we have the dog warden at the county level, and that they offer training specific to animal control. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Slutz, may I make one more comment?
Yes, Mayor.
I just want to clarify, Mrs. Littman said nuisance animals. We are not taking care of any nuisance such as raccoons, possums, anything like that, skunks. That is not in our job description. That is for someone to contract with their own pest control. We are not doing any of those. So I had raccoons. I think I shared that with Mr. Lombardi in my attic a few years back, probably 5 years ago. It was not fun, and it was quite expensive to get rid of those. And we will not be doing nuisance control at all. So I just want to clarify that with council, so there's no miscommunication. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Slutz. Madam Mayor, let me clarify. When I wrote nuisance in there, I really wasn't talking so much about wild animals. I was talking more about barking dogs, cats that are running around neighborhoods, dogs that are running around loose in neighborhoods. Some owners just think that it's okay to open their door and let their dog out and just run around the neighborhood. Those are the nuisances that I am talking about.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Lombardi.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, I say we table this till the next work session, June 7th, and continue to speak about it then.
The next work session will be June 14th.
The 14th?
Mhm.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Parks and Recreation,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Police and Fire,
I do not have any new legislation. I would like to ask my committee members if they've received any information as follow-up to the two requests, previous requests for legislation. No, neither have I. So, okay,
You
Mhm.
should have received the MOU at least.
I did not.
Yeah, I sent that out. You
Okay,
got
I
it?
did not receive the
Yeah,
MOU.
I sent that out. Matter of fact, I talked with the chief today. He wanted to follow up and make sure that I received it. And I forwarded it to you all on the 11th of May.
Okay, I will definitely check my,
Because he sent it to me on the 10th of May and I forwarded it to you on the 11th.
okay, I have one from, with no subject, would that be it?
Or either untitled.
Okay, I do see it. I'm sorry, I did not have an opportunity to review that. Have both of my committee members received it? Do you have any
I
questions?
wouldn't have received it because if there's no subject line, it automatically goes into my trash bin. So I'll have to go dig that out
You'll
and
have to
look
look
at
for
it.
it as well.
I
Okay,
can print you a hard copy for tonight. That's not a problem.
could you print me a hard copy as well, Diane?
Sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
I have not had an opportunity to review it. Obviously, Mr. Lombardi has not either. So I would suggest that perhaps we have an opportunity over the next few weeks to look at this and bring it back to the June 14th. That be correct? Yeah, the June 14th work session for further discussion. Thank you.
okay. Public Utilities,
I have nothing for public utilities, Mr. Gregg.
thank you. Rules and Courts, I have nothing for Rules and Courts. Streets, Highways, Traffic and Safety.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gregg. I think you probably all received the note from the director about the speed humps that we asked some information about that in her. Did everyone get that? So whether we proceed with this or not is, I guess, is the next thing to discuss as far as traffic control. She noted quite a few reservations, if you would, as far as using them. And I understand, obviously you have to anchor them, so that would create an issue every spring and fall, putting them down, taking them up. But they seem to have some merit also. So I guess that's where we are, is trying to figure out which outweighs which, whether the cost is greater than the effort. But I still think the most important thing we need to do is get enforcement. And that comes from being able to have enough staff on the PD, have traffic officers, and maintain speed patrols, traps, whatever you want to call them, throughout the city. Speed bumps are a Band-Aid on an arterial bleed. There's some situations, some places it might help. Want to continue with this over and any comments? Schlittman?
I just wanted to mention that I've seen in other communities, rather than have these speed humps, they have like a rumble strip. Very similar to as you run off of the highway and it wakes you up because you run on a rumble strip. You don't necessarily, have to slow down. You're not going to hit something if you don't slow down, but it's going to be very much of a nuisance when you're in the car and it's a loud noise. But it does bring to your attention that you are going over the speed limit or going faster than you should. So I think that's another option that would not be affected by the winter months where you have to take them up for snow removal and that type of thing because they're on the highways year round. I know that when we go up Route 8 on Seasons Road in order to get off the exit because it's a severe turn. Again, rumble strips help slow down traffic. So for safety issues. So that would just be another option perhaps to look into if we're looking at things like this, the speed bumps. Just an alternative.
Those sorts of things then are grooves in the pavement, not necessarily, right?
Yes, they're
raised.
permanent and they are just grooves in the pavement. Do not have to be taken up on a seasonal basis.
Good, Mr. Harkin.
Thank you, Mr. Theriot. Do we enforce speeding throughout the city? That's a question that anybody who wants to answer can.
If the chief's on right now, he can answer, but when I talk to him, they don't have the staff.
That is not true. Do you all look at your monthly reports? Because that's given to you on a monthly basis.
I asked the question because I don't know when the last time is. Maybe I drive on the wrong streets, but I don't recall seeing a police car on the side of the road enforcing traffic. Maybe I just don't go to the right spots.
Mr. Hurricane, our officers work very hard. They have a tough job to do, and they're out there keeping everyone.
Madam Mayor, I didn't question the job that the police do. I asked if they enforce speeding. I'm sure they do a fine job.
You alluded to that, and that's offensive.
I don't think I did. I think I asked a question whether we enforce traffic or speeding throughout the city. That's not a statement on the quality of our police force at all.
I guess if you look at your monthly reports, you could see that.
Anything else for streets and highways? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, for Finance Committee, first piece we have is request for legislation. Please appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the Community Health Services Fund 1235 to the following account. The Local Grants Fund, $57,800. This request has emergency language, and the reason is they are funds for the COVID-19 grant, which the Health Department has received and deposited from the state of Ohio. The appropriation is needed to pay nursing, OT, contact tracers, and bills that will be reimbursed from the grant. I know Mrs. Argent was on the call at some point. If you're still there, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, these are funds for regular activities for COVID, mostly COVID clinics and vaccine clinics, and these funds will be 100% reimbursed by our COVID grant.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Mrs. Lippman?
Could she elaborate on what COVID grant she's referring to? This current one, the one that's coming up, the American Rescue? Which one are you referring to? Will be
No, this,
reimbursed?
I'm sorry, this was the one that the health department received. It's called the CO21 grant, and that was approved several months ago, but it's the health department only.
How much did you receive in that grant?
I don't have that right in front of me, but I believe it was 110,000.
Do you feel that you have enough nursing staff, contact tracers, et cetera? Or are you looking at expanding that?
No, I feel like we have taken some of our contract tracers off due to a much lower contract tracing numbers than we had. It's actually dropped quite a bit, and we've put them onto the nursing clinics. So we have one full-time and two part-time contract tracers that are mostly now doing nursing clinic work. So I think we're doing real well with the staff that we have.
What will you be doing with the other 40,000 of the grant?
Well, that's good through December, so that will continue to pay for overtime and the contract tracer salaries.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? Mrs. Creamer?
Yes. Health Commissioner, can you elaborate a little bit when you're talking about nursing overtime and you've reduced the contact tracers? Is your workload reducing also due to the number of cases that we are seeing or overall decreasing in the city?
Yes, actually, our excuse me, our contact tracing has reduced quite a bit due to lower numbers, but our duties with the nursing clinics, and our staffing for nursing clinics has increased. So the grants have allowed us to move our contract tracers to nursing clinics. So that's what we're using those people for.
So explain nursing clinics. I guess maybe I'm a little confused regarding vaccine clinics. Is that what falls under nursing clinics?
I'm sorry, that's COVID vaccine clinics. We're doing those 3 to 4 days a week and every other Saturday.
And what kind of numbers are you seeing as a turnout of residents? Are they just Massillon residents, or are you expanding outside of Massillon residents?
We have expanded outside of Massillon residents, and we're doing, I would say, for a good example was Friday. Friday, we had a schedule and walk-in clinic. I believe we had 50 scheduled and we had about 40 walk-ins. So most of our clinics now are open to walk-ins, and that's actually going real well. And since the Vaccimillion started, we've seen a 30% increase in vaccines.
What is your percentage of wastage of the vaccine?
I don't have that number in front of me, but we actually have very little wastage. We're able to still call people occasionally. If we have someone scheduled, say for a few days from now, we can call them and see if they want to come in earlier. And also with walk-ins, that's really a lot better. They've also lengthened the amount of time that you can keep vaccines, so that's helped a little bit too.
Are you seeing a younger population come in also?
Yes, we are. We have ordered Pfizer vaccine, which is for the 12 to 18-year-olds. We haven't received that yet. You have to order that 2 weeks ahead. But we are getting younger, 18 and up, that we can vaccinate right now.
Thank you.
Mrs. Lippman?
Mrs. Argent, have you or your staff expanded into the high school and or junior high school with education related to the vaccine and the COVID in general? I mean, I guess I'm just looking for, is there any education being done in the school system related to COVID and the vaccine?
No, we haven't done that in the schools yet. Again, we were hoping to get the Pfizer as soon as we can, and we'll be able to start something like that to be able to let people know the safety of the 12 through 18-year-olds getting vaccinated. But as of right now, very few at 18 and over have been able to do that. So we haven't started that education campaign yet. We did just order several hundred brochures that are on the safety of the vaccine that we're getting out to our churches and to our Hispanic Latino communities.
Do you require parental approval for under the age of 18?
Yes, the state does require parental approval. In the past, up until about a month ago, the parents had to be present, but now they have to at least have a written excuse or, a written permission slip.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Arden, while we have you on, this is related to this specific piece of legislation, but I know I hear and I read all different aspects of mask requirements and social distancing, and it's changing. I know the governor has come out with new guidelines and so forth. As the leader of our health department, can you state your understanding as where we are as a city, what our requirements are?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. As of last Tuesday, the governor did release requirements a little bit. If you're fully vaccinated, plus 2 weeks after you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to social distance and you don't have to wear a mask. Now, anyone not vaccinated still is required to wear a mask and to socially distance. As of June the 2nd, all of the governor's requirements are off. So you can pretty much do what you want after June the 2nd. But we do like to caution people, we are still at a red level alert, and that means high incidence of COVID in our community. And until that is the case, we at the health department, for example, are still going to continue to wear our mask and socially distance until we can get that alert level down to orange or even yellow.
So that may continue after June 2nd, you're saying?
No, as of June 2nd, the governor has said basically the Ohio Department of Health, all the orders are off. But if we are still at a red level, it'll be people's choices and we will let people know that there's still COVID out there.
Okay, and specifically for meetings like ours, government meetings, how do the guidelines apply?
Well, again, as of June 2nd, there won't be any more guidelines.
Okay,
And as of right now, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to socially distance or wear a mask.
okay, thank you. I see a question from Mrs. Creamer.
Yes, Health Commissioner, what is the percentage of city employees that have been vaccinated?
I don't have that right in front of me. I would have to find that out.
Please do. I'd like that. I'd like to have some sense of, where we're at as a city. If the governor has, opened the state as of June 2nd, I believe, where we're at with the safety of our employees.
I can tell you, as a city, we have 37% of the citizens vaccinated, and that's at the state level is 36%. So we're pretty much right even with the state level. As far as city employees, I don't know that yet.
Can we have that at the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Argent. Any other questions on this topic? So related to the legislation, we'll put that on the agenda for Monday. Next piece I have is please prepare legislation to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the federal grant COPS Fund 1230 to the following account, 1230.305.5.2752, $2,477.93 as a transfer out. I know there'll also be a accompanying transfer out and transfer in as well. Is there someone from the administration who'd like to speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Gregg, this is Stephanie with the auditor's office. This is a fund that has not been used since the year 2000, so we're just trying to discontinue the fund and move these funds that are in there into the general fund.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? All right, we'll put that on the agenda for Monday, along with the additional piece for the transfer out, transfer in, transfer out. Next, we have please prepare legislation to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the federal grants fund 1218 $1,050 transfer out, the generated transfer to the general fund due to the discontinuation of this fund. So I assume that's the same situation.
That's correct.
Right? Both of those be on the agenda for Monday. Next, I have, please prepare an ordinance to establish a fund entitled American Rescue Plan Fund 1221 and to receive and expend funds in accordance with the American Rescue Plan Act interim final guidance and future frequently asked questions and other guidance issued by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. This fund is needed to deposit proceeds from the American Rescue Plan Act and does not require separate approval from the Auditor of State. This does have emergency language for the reason of funding may not be accepted or expended until the ordinance is passed and the new fund is established. Again, from the administration, someone to discuss?
Yes, Mr. Gregg, it's Stephanie again. Just like we had made the coronavirus relief fund, a new fund is required to be established for the American Rescue Plan Act. And we cannot go through the process to get the money distributed to us until this fund is established.
Thank you. Questions? First of all, Mrs. Starrett.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. This is more just a request of administration or the mayor, probably more specifically. When we get the finalized guidelines and restrictions on how this money can be spent, can city council get a outline of that or copy of that so we can kind of review that compared to what we plan on using this money for? An outline, like I said.
Bullet points.
We'd be happy to-
51 pages, so an outline would be preferable.
We don't, right, today we don't have an outline. We're hoping to be able to create something like that as we move through all of the restrictions. But today we don't have that, Mrs. Starrett, but we are meeting again to try to drill down on the restrictions. Again, we've been on multiple webinars. We can to get that to you.
Thank you, Mayor. You were breaking up a little bit, but we kind of understood that we don't have it ready yet. I understand that. That's why I just asked for future meetings if we could have that available.
Yes, we'll get that. Thank you.
Mrs. Lippman.
This is a question for Stephanie. Have you received any information as to when the funds can be expected?
Ms. Lippman, all I know at this point is we can request the funds once I have this fund established, but there hasn't been a timeline of how long from when we requested till it will be received.
So we need to make the request before a distribution will be given.
That's correct.
And as far
There's
as
a portal that they have set up that we would request it through the portal through the federal government.
and we must state at that point what the requested funds would be used for. Is that correct?
No, we do not.
We
No.
do not. We just need to request the funds, put it in this account, and then we have some time to decide how we would like to spend it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions regarding this? Right, we'll put that on the agenda for Monday as well. Last piece I have, please prepare legislation to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the insurance fund 2202 to the following account: $10,000 employee insurance, to pay health insurance invoice for COBRA members who pay the city directly for health premiums. This does have emergency language to pay invoices in a timely manner. Who would like to speak to this from the administration?
Stephanie again. This is an account where when our members who are electing COBRA, once they leave the city, their payments are paid out of this, but we do get reimbursed from the COBRA company that runs the COBRA insurance. And so we just need to get more money in there. There's been an increase in the, we probably this year, at least three new COBRA members of employees that have left this year.
So you're saying we pay a portion of their premiums under?
No, we don't pay any, but we have to pay on our invoice. It becomes on our invoice. The employees pay the entire COBRA amount, but we just deposit it into a revenue account, but we just need to appropriate to actually pay it out of the expense account.
So it's a cash flow issue, having the cash.
Correct,
available.
yes.
Okay. Mrs. Lippman?
So those employees do not pay the insurance company direct. They pay the city and then the city pays the invoice. Is that correct?
Actually, they pay a company called Cobra Options that runs the Cobra program, but their premiums are on our medical mutual invoice. And the Cobra Options will pay us our portion after the employees pay them.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, we'll have that on the agenda for Monday. Mrs. Argent, if you're still on the line, Mrs. Creamer has an additional question for you.
Excuse me, Mr. Councilman Gregg, do you not have the transfer?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. All right, before we get to that, one additional item, transfer from Auditor's Department, the 2205-9055 2311 fund retiree insurance, $746 to employee insurance, to realign the 2021 budget to pay health insurance for COBRA members who pay the city directly for health premiums. Any discussion? Just to move money. Okay, Mrs. Argent, are you still on the line?
See here.
Looks like no. Okay. That's next meeting. All right. This time, as we've traditionally done, we've had time for public speaks. We'll do that again this evening. If anybody would like to speak on any subject this evening, please state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. LJ DeLuca. Hello, LJ DeLuca, 2954 Veterans Boulevard, Southeast Massillon, Ohio, the Legends of Massillon. I want to, first off, saying I heard the mayor say stuff about code enforcement. Well, it's really not that effective. I hate to tell you. I've talked to Jimmy, and he told everybody to put it in writing, and we don't have time to put stuff in writing. It's also embarrassing to me, and I don't even want to go through this again. Not every city mayor, don't tell me about it. Not my cousin used to be the mayor of Penn Hills, which is the biggest suburb, Pittsburgh, PA. Not every city, don't say that again. Not every city doesn't know where their money are coming from the rentals. If you're going to tell it, you better tell it the truth. So I don't appreciate that. But that's not what I'm calling about. It's, you know, I think maybe some of these people in code enforcement are scared to go out because maybe that's what they're getting the cue from the mayor's office. So maybe that's what they're hiding about. I don't know. But I want to talk about some of the gentlemen getting bit here from a pit bull in Massillon, Ohio. The guy's a nice homeowner. He doesn't want to call the prosecutor, which he should. And the reason why, he probably, let's face it, he doesn't want to cause a problem with his neighbor, but just look what he's got to go through with these rabies. Now, I want to tell you another person got bit, which is works for the government, a Mel lady in downtown Massillon, Ohio. She went through many things. Okay. There's many times we've talked to the mayor, and we try to be nice about it. We talked, and she talks, and the mayor talks and talks. Dogs bark and bark and bark. And sometimes, not all dogs, I love dogs, cats, everything. They bite and they inflict pain and rabies shots. I want you guys to know going through rabies shots is not a fun time. Now, I want to know from you, I want a straight answer, Mayor. From me, not only me, but other people want to know. I've seen this. I've seen what happened, the stuff that was inflicted on this gentleman that got the pit bull bite. What are you going to do about this animal control officer? I don't want any more talking as a citizen here in Massillon. I don't care if people even voted for you. They are tired of it too, Mayor. We need to get an animal control officer. You told us at Jill Kramer's thing when she had, you told us you were talking to the sheriff and you were going to do it. Just like we were talking about a bunch of stuff, the TIFs, okay, at the Massillon Marketplace. We were talking about human trafficking initiative. I've got word for word of what you said, Mayor. It's time to act on what you said, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Anybody else? Hearing none, I declare a meeting adjourned.